Hello, everyone. Today we're welcoming our guest, Alena Yudina, our friend, our partner, and a beautiful lady. Alena is the CEO of Quantum Leap Strategy from Switzerland. My name is Jin Deyev. I'm CEO of Stobox, and we also have Boris Pikalov, our head of analytics of Stobox. And today we're gonna talk about STO, security token offering in Switzerland, and basically the Swiss background and Swiss regulatory framework, and how it's easy and how it's interesting to conduct an STO from Switzerland. So that's the first. Alena, please tell us more about the Switzerland in terms of the blockchain initiatives, and what's your focus there? How you see the framework in Switzerland in terms of working from a blockchain area?
Well, besides the fact that Switzerland is my favorite country, Switzerland is also the country which really supports startups and high technology startups in different fields, and blockchain wasn't an exception. When everybody around were creating different obstacles, how not to conduct ICOs, STOs, Switzerland just came to say, like, if you want to do it, you have to follow the rules, and this is the guidance for you. And it was great. It was 2018, and basically from 2018, 2017, we started to work in the field. So we could see how the industry is developing and how Switzerland is adapting to ICOs, to the security regulations of STOs, and creating new recommendations, clarifications. And basically what's good in Switzerland, if you have any question regarding how to be compliant, how to follow the rules, they will always come and help you and say, yes, you just need to do this and this and this, and it will be fine. And it will be fine if your intentions are, as you say,
are fine.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. We at Stobox, we are conducting researches on the best jurisdictions on what's and how to issue a security token, which could be underlined by, let's say, common stock or other securities which represent equity. And we see that there is several jurisdictions that are most popular. One of this is Switzerland. The second would be US. And the last that we are investigating at the moment is Liechtenstein. And we see a lot of projects, not maybe a lot, but we have a number of projects that are successful in Switzerland. So as far as we understand that the regulatory framework is already set. Mm-hmm. So if, let's say, if anybody would like to issue a security token, how it's easy and how it's manageable to go to Switzerland in terms of basically the feasibility of doing so?
Well, I mean, how easy it is. It is easy. You're opening the company, you need to have the Swiss entity, which will be compliant to the Swiss regulation, with the bank account, preferably in Switzerland. I mean, actually, you cannot open the company if you don't have a bank account in Switzerland. Anyway, and then you follow the steps of application of your idea and the background check of the company, of what and how you're going to do, even the technological solution which you're going to apply. And within some months, like from 3 to 9 months, usually you can get the approval or not approval. But even if something is wrong in your project and the regulator would like to have it in a different way, you will have another chance to apply. So you will just need to correct something and then try again.
I'm just saying that you not necessarily have to get acceptance from a Swiss regulator. You just have to fit into the existing legal framework. So if your offering goes beyond certain levels, then you definitely have to go to the regulator, which will take from 3 to 9 months and full due diligence. But we see that there is several startups and that are raising much less, in a way that they don't have to be compliant, and they don't have to, not actually, they have to be compliant, but they don't have to get accreditation from your regulator. Is that true?
I mean, yes, you can try it this way, but our recommendation is always check with the regulator. Get the approval from the regulator that this is like this, that until a certain amount, if you're going to raise, you don't need approval, but get this paper that you don't need it. And then when the regulator says, yes, that's fine, you don't need the approval, and go with it. And when they say, that's bad to check, just go and check. Because in Switzerland, what is very important and why Switzerland has such a reputation is because once you do something, you'd better do it right.
Yeah, sure. In terms of, I will just give an example in terms of US. So basically there is a old laws dating 1933, and this is a Securities Act. And what US did, they said, listen, just use the law which was already there for 90 years and obey to that law in terms of your securities offering. And then you basically, there is no difference between issuing a classical security on paper or a security which is on the DLT framework, or in other sense on the blockchain. So in terms of US, it's quite clear. And in Switzerland, do you know any cases where security tokens are being underlined by the physical equity of the company? Have you seen any cases?
What I can tell you firstly regarding the law itself, Switzerland has basically there are 5 main banking laws which the security token offering needs to be compliant with. And you are right, the law in Switzerland is also not very new, but there are clarifications from the court which says how the security token offering or how the digital securities can be regulated according to this and this law, how it can be understood here and there. Basically, it's a document, it's quite a big document, but it helps a lot. It helps companies to understand how they can be compliant. But I think you can tell us out of your experience and your clients a bit more how you are dealing with the STOs in Switzerland and how you do it now. How you do digitalization of assets even without going through compliance of STO as it is.
Sure. Basically, the framework would be the following: that any company that would like to do the offering in Switzerland, first of all, of course, it has to be a legal and compliant company, but it depends what security token is being underlined. So if it's let's say an equity, that would be one case. And this is a good question. Thank you for that. Recently, there was a case where a Swiss company issued their equity, their preferred stock, in dematerialized form. So this is just an addition to the article of association that a company and the director creates. In this sense, you can issue those securities not on paper, but on any type of distributed ledger technology. Like for instance, and for example, like Ethereum is. And we have already case where the 100% of the shares of the company were represented by the Ethereum tokens on blockchain. And the next step is, once that's done, is to be able to sell those tokens, to sell those shares in a compliant way, which is again done by common law procedures. So there is nothing new on how you can sell. Of course, you have to follow certain rules and regulations, like prospectus directive in Europe. So there is an identical in Switzerland. And once you follow that rules, you basically have no legal risks of distributing your equity between shareholders. And that would depend also on, but there's other different nuances, like tax nuances, like how that this security offering, how's your equity would be fancy to different type of investors. And that's why another second question to you. Tell me please more. You've seen many projects, many different size projects going through your company, entering Swiss market. And one of your focus is bringing investments to those companies. Tell me please, how friendly investors look at those type of digital securities in comparison to classical paper securities that are being offered as of now?
Well, Switzerland is a beautiful country, and Switzerland has very, very long traditions, and those traditions are also applicable to investments. So, of course, Swiss investors love classical way of investing in companies, equities, and things like this. But as here you can even pay taxes in Bitcoins, of course, companies and investment funds are open to a certain new type of investments, and they even structure their portfolio in a way that they have blockchain projects, one or another form, or STOs, or they invest in equity, but they prefer to invest in equity of those projects who are going towards STOs, because anyway it goes towards democratization of investment landscape, let's put it this way. So there are different types of investors. One criteria which is very important: the company better be connected in Switzerland or have office here or representative office here. That gives certain security to investors. Another question is who are the founders? Of course, everybody checks that before they even check what the project is doing. They will see who are you, how are you connected to the Swiss ecosystem or to the business environment you are targeting. And then, of course, they will check your project. So, like, Swiss investors take time to analyze, but then when they support, and there are quite a lot of strategical investments in the field. So they will help you to grow. They will connect you to other funds as well if you need the second round, and so on and so forth. So there is a certain community which supports the really interesting and important and socially important projects. And I can tell you that impact investments, it's quite a big and ongoing direction.
Yeah, thank you. What I believe, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, that if you're a startup, let's say not from Switzerland, mm-hmm. It would be a costly procedure to launch an STO from Switzerland. But if you're an existing company, let's say a small medium enterprise, you have already a traction and you're fully operational, you pay taxes, let's say somewhere outside of even European Union, and then you would like to scale. And in order to attract funding for your scale, you would like to do an STO because it's kind of easier to manage international investors as a technology. So would you believe that Switzerland jurisdiction is best for existing businesses rather than for small startups that are counting every penny?
Well, small startups. Regarding the small startups, there is quite a supporting infrastructure for the startups itself. Some startups, if they match certain criteria, can be registered with the minimum costs. Of course, there are still the regulation that for GmbH you need to have 20,000 as a operating capital or initial capital. For AG, you need to have, which is PLC, you need to have from 50 to 100,000. So it should be 100 at the end, but you can start from 50,000. but both can be applied in a form of Bitcoin. So you have a couple of, like, what is it now, like 2-3 Bitcoins, you can already open a company, you just register it as your initial capital. So that makes the process for digital world easier as of registration. But you're right, of course, in a way that small and medium enterprise have advantage because they have already running and operating businesses. So if they want to move to one jurisdiction or another, or if they would like to attract investments or being compliant regarding the digital securities to Switzerland, it will be easier for them, just because they have certain ongoing tracking. Another thing is that this kind of companies who already have the track record, who already have operating processes, who already have the history and the product which is up and selling, that these companies, of course, are more interesting for investors. And when we're talking about STOs, it's about democratization of investment process. So investors can participate in the revenue of such company. And of course, it's more interesting to participate in the revenue of already existing and selling company than of idea.
Than to buy a stock of a startup
Yes.
that nobody knows what's gonna happen tomorrow with that.
Yeah, exactly. So like the risk is smaller for investor, and for the company, they are not selling their shares, they're selling the percentage of the revenue, for example, with the investors who believe in the idea, who support there, who are part of the community, and it's like one big family growing together.
Do you think are the specific benefits of Switzerland in terms of STO? So why would SMEs choose Switzerland over other jurisdictions as a place to issue securities?
Because it's very clear from the legal point of view. The regulation is supportive, and as I said, whenever the questions are arising, local authorities will always help you to clarify what's going on and how to do it right. And then for investment, from investment perspective, the company which is coming from Switzerland or secure their funds in Switzerland is like more attractive as it's more secure.
Mm.
That's for sure. And also the processes are actually quicker because there are already established steps, already established the regulations. So it goes quicker because many companies are going through the same process. And that's absolute advantage, in my opinion.
Mm. And if you register your offering in Switzerland and get approval from a local regulator, do you get access only to local investors from Switzerland, or you can also raise funds, for example, from EU investors on regulatory collaboration regime? So is it beneficial? Because if you register, for example, in any other European country, you get access to all the EU market.
Well, you get access to European investors as well. I mean, they should go through certain KYC or AML procedure anyway, any investor whom you're
That's definitely. That's a standard.
So that's it. And of course, there are countries from where the money are less acceptable or not acceptable at all. And also there is a certain recommendation, recommendation from point of consultancy, that unless you really want to deal with American regulation, don't get American investors on board for European company. And that's why usually companies have one process ongoing in the US where they work with American investors, and another one is in Switzerland or Liechtenstein, which is also good for work with European investors.
What about Swiss retail market? So what I know is that Swiss investors in general, the general population in Switzerland is quite affluent and has significant investable assets. So how active is Swiss retail investment market, which is rather more often targeted by STOs than institutional?
Well, if you look at the researches, the most progressive country regarding blockchain awareness is South Korea. But Switzerland didn't go that far. In Switzerland, if you go on the street and ask anybody what is blockchain or what is Bitcoin, or do you have a Bitcoin? Most people will say, yes, I've heard about it, it's working, and they will even show you some companies. Like we have a tram, like actually physical tram, walking around the city and promoting. That guys did really great job. Bitcoin Swiss. What they did in the tram, they explained different blockchains, like what is Bitcoin, what is Ethereum, what is this, what is that, how it is working, like very, very simple, things people while they are riding the tram around the city, they read and learn. And I
That's
remember,
beautiful. That's a beautiful advertising of DLT technology supported by the Swiss government.
It's not Swiss government, it's Bitcoin Swiss's
Okay, that's association.
broker. No, it's the broker dealer
Okay.
who is applying and I think waiting right now for the banking license, and we hope they'll get soon one, because they're doing a really beautiful job in raising the public awareness of what's going on in the field, and of course they do great their own job.
So just to summarize, so if you want to do an STO, and if you have already some traction and you're approaching European investors and you want to tackle Swiss investors, going into Switzerland would be the best case.
Yes, going in Switzerland would be the best case, but you need to really be honest with yourself. How serious is your project? How interesting is your project for investors? Because if you invest around 200,000 or 100,000 for just establishing company and making it up and running and going through the legal procedures, then you need to be sure that this is not just waste of your time and money and efforts of the whole team. So be honest. But that's my first recommendation to all company owners. Be honest with what you do, how interesting it is for people. And if it is not, try to make it better first, and then go and tackle Swiss investors, because they will give you money, but what will you do with this money? How will you grow? And that's responsibility we're all having.
Last aspect I just want to raise is the secondary trading. I just want to say that secondary trading is something that security market lacks today in terms of digital securities.
Yeah.
And what we know that in Switzerland, there's a Crypto Valley Association, and the Quantum Leap strategy is the part of that association. And we know that there are a number of initiatives to bring the digital securities trading live from a Switzerland regulatory perspective. So I think that the first European secondary trading platforms that would allow liquidity coming into the security token market, I suggest, and my own vision, it would come from US, and it's already there, but it's mostly for US companies. And in terms of Europe, it would come from Switzerland, because it's a huge, the huge efforts are being put by local providers into that step to make your shares be liquid on a regulated market. And it's very important to understand it's not a share of a public company which can be listed on NASDAQ or SIX or any other MTFs or stock exchanges which are globally recognized, but we're talking about the liquidity of the private company. So if yesterday if you want to exit, if you want to sell your stake at the company and you have it on paper, it was a difficult process. You had to find the investor offline, you had to negotiate the price with him, then you go to the company itself and say, listen, I want to sell my stocks and this is a new buyer. So this was an old legacy system and the legacy process. And what we're building, and in terms of the community, is the ability to sell your stake at the private company immediately on a regulated market. And again, I think Switzerland is the jurisdiction where this would be possible, and it would be created there, sooner or later, but I think that would be the first jurisdiction where these opportunities would become live. So if you open a Swiss company and you would like to benefit easy entering and easy exiting from your company, again, Swiss jurisdiction would be very, very recommended here.
What can I say? I agree.
Just think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can just add, I hope Switzerland won't listen, that I also think that Liechtenstein didn't go that far away from Switzerland, so it's kind of together, either Switzerland or Liechtenstein. For some investors, like from the investment perspective, Switzerland is better, like better reputation long term, but Liechtenstein is working hard on creating the proper laws, the proper regulations, supporting companies as well. And of course, it's way smaller, so it's sometimes even quicker in terms of going through the approval process. But they come together.
I just want to give you one example where a Liechtenstein company, and it's they created an STO, and their security token is being underlined by the preferred stock of that company. What they did, they started to sell those shares from their website. The only thing you have to do is they go on the website, pass KYC, input the amount of your investments, and once everything is done by the company or the compliance check, you as an investor, regardless your jurisdiction, we're not talking about the prohibited jurisdictions by the FATF, we're talking about the whitelisted jurisdictions, then you would be able to purchase and receive that shares on your basically account and have the paper contract with the company that is situated in Liechtenstein or in Switzerland. In the case I'm just mentioning, it's a company, NRCom. They have created that security token offering, and it was a successful offering. Now they have multiple investors from different parts of the world, of course compliant, but they've never met each other. So I think it's a very good point in the market where we see first traction. We don't have an industry leaders, or we don't have the industry, it's a still emerging market. It's a very, very early stage. Yeah. And we see how different jurisdictions are climbing on that wall to be able to provide that solutions for investors, for issuers, for companies, because it's a great technology for us to use.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm personally very glad to hear that you're working now more with Liechtenstein and Switzerland, because what you are creating from the technological point of view and from the network, that's quite important, and it will easier the process end of the day for both for the companies who are coming and also for the companies who are existing in Switzerland and want to participate in the network. Great. So
yeah, so let's see the market growing. Let's see the market growing. Alena, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And stay with us.
Always
thank
a pleasure.
You, Boris.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Alena.
Bye.